Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to just give you a run through as to the different tailpiece and setup configurations that you'll have on Kaba Ilco's key and knob, key in lever, key and deadbolt type cylinders. There are a variety of these different types of cylinders and what they are arranged for, and the purpose of this video is just to show how the typical tailpieces all go together. So the bottom line is the common key and knob deadbolt style, or key and lever for that matter, is going to feature tailpieces that look like this, that can be installed with either the tailpiece vertical or horizontal, and that will apply to either knob or deadbolt, depending on which one. Then you're going to have tailpieces that are used for deadbolts, and they're going to look like this. And these are called lazy style. Lazy because they allow for a rotation of the key or the trim without the entire cylinder having to be rotated as well. The concept of a traditional single cylinder deadbolt is such that when you put the key in from the outside, you can turn it to unlock the door, and you can bring it back to 0 and it's still not locked, and then all the way the opposite direction in order to throw the deadbolt again. Going from unlocked to relocked allows a significant degree of rotation because part of that segment, the tailpiece is behaving lazily. It's a lazy tailpiece. Now the reason that that has to work that way is, imagine if it was a fixed tailpiece like you have in a rim cylinder. That means that there's a direct linkage between the key and the cylinder. So every time you turned the key, you would get movement of the tailpiece. In this sort of scenario, when you turn the key to unlock the deadbolt, you wouldn't be able to pull your key out without turning it back to 90 degrees. That's the lazy aspect, and that's why it's required. So the question is, how do these things work really? And you're going to have with this a split metal washer. You're going to have the screw cap. You're going to have the tiny little spring for the retaining pin. You'll have the retaining pin itself. You will have a plastic shim or spacer. And then you're going to have your tail pieces. 3 lazy style for deadbolts, 3 fixed that will be for levers or knobs. And then of course you'll get your cylinder and your 2 keys. So all of the pieces will come in a bag except the spring, the retaining pin, and the screw cap. That's generally already assembled. So the way that that looks, and I'm just going to quickly put it back together, is that, don't even need to go that far. The spring goes into the hole in the back of the cylinder plug. Tiny little hole that's there. Then of course your retaining pin. Now, careful because that's all spring loaded. If you push that down and let it go, it'll snap right up. You don't want to lose them because if you've lost that pin, you've lost your ability to be able to use the cylinder. You'll have to get a replacement pin. The screw cap literally threads onto the back of the cylinder plug via those threads that are there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the screw cap down, and then with this ground down old locksmithing tool, I'm going to depress my pin, and be very careful, and then start to rotate it clockwise so that you are threading the cylinder down. Basically use your short little tool to keep the pin depressed. Okay? Okay? Now, this is what it's going to look like when it comes from the factory. Depress it to remove it, unthread, and then when you get the screw cap off, just be careful with releasing the tension on the pin. There's really no reason to remove it. Just leave it like that. Then you're going to install either your lever which are typically vertical, or your knob, which is typically horizontal, depending on where you install that. Or you'll put your lazy style deadbolt tailpiece. The split ring is used only for the lazy style, and you're just going to basically slide that over so that it looks just like that. You're going to get all of this put in together. hold that down, and that's just what it's going to look like. Okay. Now, with this loose assembly on your desk or on your work table, bring your screw cap down, and then just do the same procedure by depressing the retaining pin very carefully and turning it clockwise. Once you get that screw cap down and began to have it threaded, you're not going to lose your retaining pin. But now I've got that depressed, I've got the pin installed, I've got that split ring in there on top of the tailpiece, and now my cylinder works just fine. So you can see that this tailpiece will float lazily without the cylinder being moved. And that's to allow the action previously discussed. The only piece that's left, other than these unused tail pieces, which you should certainly save, is this plastic spacer. All that the spacer is used for is to go just like this, should you need to be able to minimize any slop in the chassis cavity, in the knob, before it hits the backside of the retracting mechanism, the actual board portion of the lock assembly. And that's all it's really for. That's its only purpose. It's just going to float in the back. You'll know if you need it because you'll have lots of slop in there, but the truth of the matter is it's generally not required, and it's generally not required because this is an incredibly generic sort of uniform construction that you will be able to see fit into scores of different lock sets without any trouble. It's a generic design. And thankfully so, because you'll be able to use this in lots of different locks. Okay. That's how all these pieces go together. If you have any questions on the setup of these cylinders from Kaba Ilco or any other Kaba Ilco product, please do feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.